Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, my name is Dr. Himanshu Tyagi and I am teaching this course on heat and mass transfer. Let us continue with our topic of radiative heat transfer. Let us first see what we have done in our previous lecture, where we had looked at the electromagnetic wave spectrum. Then we have looked at some basics of the electromagnetic wave, and I had referred the students that those who are interested in looking at this topic in lot of detail, they may refer to the Maxwell equations. I gave an example about the attenuation of wave, where this sine curve we are seeing, it is retaining its shape, but the amplitude is gradually decreasing. So, where it takes place in nature. Then we formally defined the black body radiation with the help of the Stefan-Boltzmann law, which gives this T to the power 4 law. Then we looked at very powerful Planck's law equation, which is giving E b lambda. So, if we add the subscript lambda, it becomes the spectral black body emissive power. Then we looked at very interesting concept that if we plot the spectral emissive black body emissive power on y axis as a function of wavelength over here for a given temperature, then by integrating this particular area, we actually get the overall black body emissive power. If we differentiate E b lambda at that particular point and put d b lambda by d lambda equals to 0. So, we are getting that maxima point shown over here with the circled red color A, B and C, and then our equation reduces to simply lambda t is equals to C, a constant. This is a constant, and this we call as the Wien's displacement law. So, Planck's law is very powerful in that term, that it is encompassing the Stefan-Boltzmann law as well as the Wien's displacement law within itself. Then we looked at one or two very simple calculations for the wavelength at which peak emission occurs for sun, which is about 0.5 micron, and for a human body roughly at 300 Kelvin, which is about 10 microns. This is the point where we had stopped, where I had drawn a old type incandescent bulb. So, this bulb used to give light and it was very popular 20-25 years ago, but now they have been replaced these bulbs with CFL, and very soon it will be replaced with LED. So, these are more efficient. So, indirectly we want to compare the efficiency of these LED and CFL, which could be about maybe 15% to 40% efficient. Let us try and calculate that these old type incandescent bulb, how much high their efficiencies were. So, efficiencies we will calculate in terms of Q dot 1 divided by Q dot 2. So, these two numbers we need to calculate, where Q dot 1 is the electrical input. I think I wrote it the other way around, it will be Q dot 2 divided by Q dot 1, and the electrical input will be in the denominator, and how much light we are getting out of it. So, light we can define by this particular radiation of that radiative heat flux, which is within the visible spectrum 0.4 to 0.7. So, we are going to explore in the next few slides how do we calculate these type of values. In order to do that more formally, let us go back to that particular curve, where for any given temperature I can draw this E b lambda as a function of lambda curve, and this is our point at which maximum emission takes place. This I can write at lambda max, and what I want to figure out is, if I remove this particular thing, at any given wavelength, let me randomly put some wavelength over here. Let us say this is my wavelength equal to lambda naught. I want to figure out how much energy is being emitted in this particular zone, which means all the wavelengths which are less than lambda naught. So, from lambda starting from 0 up till lambda naught, how much energy is that. So, in physical terms, what I want to find out is what is the black body emissive power from wavelength 0 to lambda naught. So, if we talk in terms of the mathematical understanding, it is simply area under the curve. So, this thing I can write very nicely. So, I will say that E in this particular case, where lambda is from 0 to lambda naught, is simply I am integrating E b lambda d lambda from lambda equals to 0 to lambda equals to some given lambda naught. Okay. Can I express this particular thing in a fraction form? Which means if I divide it and define some fraction f, which is this particular E, and divide it by the value E b lambda, what will I get? So, what we are getting essentially is, if I take this particular orange zone over here, so the whole thing I am showing as orange now, that is my top area numerator, and this I can write with this particular expression over here, which means my numerator is simply E b lambda d lambda integrating from 0 to a particular wavelength, which is of interest to me. So, I will mark it with the orange circle over here. And what is my denominator? Denominator is the same thing, but I am trying to calculate for the whole spectrum, which means from lambda equals to 0 to infinity. So, I will ask the students if they remember what this denominator actually represents. It represents area under the whole curve, and that we have seen earlier in the previous lecture. It simply turns out to be the expression E b. So, if I have taken E b lambda, integrating it with d lambda over the whole spectrum, so that spectral emissive black body emissive power simply turns out to be the black body emissive power. So, I can remove that lambda from the bottom and I simply get E b, and what do I get in numerator is this thing. And this fraction I can define, and I can calculate. If I have time, I can do lot of elaborate calculations, and for each value of lambda I can calculate this value of f. Okay. Now, we do not have to do it ourselves. There are lot of literature which are available in the technical handbooks and other places, where this fraction f has actually been calculated for different values of lambdas. So, we will look and refer to this particular table over here. This is a black body radiation function, and we will be able to solve problems like this incandescent bulb problem, where we are trying to do exactly the same. We are trying to figure out not only for this particular orange zone, we are trying to do for even more specific case, where we have limits of 2 lambdas. So, in the incandescent bulb case, I would mark it with the red zone over here, because I not only know one of the wavelength, I know the second wavelength as well. So, all I am interested in is calculating this red zone over here, which means if I have two particular wavelengths, can I somehow express this particular thing in terms of simple 1 f lambda. So, I think I can do that if I write it like this. So, what it left hand side, what does it represent? LHS left hand side, the fraction of the radiation which is emitted between the wavelength lambda 1 and lambda 2. What is the right hand side indicating over here? RHS. Right hand side is indicating the difference of two terms. The first term is the fraction of radiation which is emitted from 0 to lambda 2 minus the fraction of radiation emitted from 0 to lambda 1, and we can see it very clearly over here, that is this first term minus second term, which means I can show this particular graph, this red graph, as the difference of two zones. So, if this is my lambda 2, I can say it is the difference of this green area over here, if this is lambda 2, and if I make my orange as lambda 1 over here, lambda 1, and if I can show it over here, if this orange is like this, So, the difference between green and this orange gives me this red zone over here. I hope students are not getting confused by the color on the screen and the actual spectral color. So, there is no correlation between them. I am just using different colors so that it becomes very convenient to see over here. So, all that thing what I have described graphically, that green zone minus orange zone over here gives me red zone, is written mathematically over here, and mathematically it is more formal and more convenient. So, students should stick to the mathematical thing. Those colors I am using just for understanding over there. Now, with this particular understanding, let us go back and try and attack. So, this f I will also formally define its name as the black body radiation function. So, this f is known as the black body radiation. And let us take a quick example. Before we go to the incandescent bulb, can we take one more example? I will go to the incandescent in just a little while. But because we started this whole analysis of radiation heat transfer with the sun, let us try to calculate the fraction of energy which is coming from the sun between the wavelengths of the visible spectrum. So, I am going to assume it is between 0.4 and 0.7 microns, because these are approximate values, that is I am saying this is an assumption. So, how do I calculate this thing? It will be simply the subtraction of two particular values of f, that is what I am interested in. This is the black body radiation function. All I need to figure out is how will I use that particular table. For that, let us take the solar temperature approximately as 6000 Kelvin. The first step in this calculation will be that we will calculate the value of lambda 1 t, which turns out over here lambda 1 value is given, t value is given. So, lambda 1 t very quickly we can calculate is how much? So, it is 2400, this is micron into Kelvin. So, I am just multiplying 6000 by 0.4. Then we will get lambda 2 t, which turns out to be this into this. So, we will get something like 2400 micron Kelvin. Now, based on this, I will get one lambda 1 fraction over here, I will get another lambda 2 fraction over here. So, let us memorize these two numbers. The two numbers that we are interested in is 2400 and 4200. Okay. Now, let us go back to that table I had shown little bit earlier, which gives us the results for the black body radiation function, and I will mention those two numbers over here. One was 2400, one was 4200, and the values units were micron Kelvin. So, let us go over here and try and see. So, 2400 micron Kelvin is this value, 4200 micron value is this value. So, maybe I will solve that thing over here. So, essentially one value that we get is this, and let me round it off. So, I will just call it this is 52%. So, the higher value that I get is 52%. So, this fraction I am converting into percentage. I think students can immediately see that, and this one I am converting into 14%. I am just multiplying by 100. So, I have these two values, I will remember them 52% and 14%. So, this value was 14% over here, this value was 52%. So, all we need to do to calculate the overall fraction is just to take the difference of these two numbers. Oops. So, the overall between lambda 1 and lambda 2 is simply f lambda 2 minus f lambda 1, 52% minus 14%. So, if my did I do it correctly? So, something like this. So, this is the rough value that we have estimated from here, that the visible spectrum coming from the sun just by itself is containing almost 40% of the energy which is coming from the sun to planet Earth. So, just in that very small narrow band, I can draw it over here. So, in this particular small band from here to here, this contains about 30%, 38% of the energy which is coming from the sun, and very interesting. Now, we can go back and try to solve the same thing from the incandescent case. Okay. So, what we wanted to do is in the incandescent bulb case also, that we wanted to figure out the same thing, that how much energy, fraction of energy is between 0.4 and 0.7. The only difference that we have taken over here is that we are not taking solar temperature, but the temperature of the bulb that we are taking is much less. So, we are taking some realistic value. So, temperature of the bulb is about 2500 Kelvin. So, I can do the same exercise over here. So, we will get lambda 1 T bulb, lambda 2 T bulb. We will get the fraction for this F1, F2. So, this one I am just going to write the results over here, because I did that exercise earlier. So, it turns out F1 is very low value, it is about 3.9%, or it is the other way around. F2 is 3.9% because it is the higher wavelength, and F1 is simply 0.03%. So, the total fraction, it turns out, is very close to 0.9%. I think there was a 3 over here which got cancelled. So, it was 3.93 minus 0.03. So, what it tells us is it is correct thing to actually go from this very low value toward higher efficiencies of CFL and LED. Eventually, it may give 30 to 40%. So, our whole incandescent bulb, they were very efficient in producing heat. Why? Because if somebody asks where is the rest of the energy going, which means if this is almost 4%, that 96.1%, where it is going? Predominantly in heating. So, if I bought a 100 watt bulb, old type bulb, I am producing 96 watts of heating in this room, only about 3 to 4 watts of that is converted into light. So, still lot of research is needed, because even in LEDs not 100% is getting converted in light, and that is where young scientists and young engineers are needed. So, they can look into the physics behind it and try and further keep on improving the efficiency of these light producing devices. Now, let us kick some gears and pick up a little pace. In order to do that, I want to present some tougher problems, because I spent little time on these problems with the only reason I wanted to introduce the topic little slowly. But now, with all that background we have covered, we have looked at EB, we have looked at EB lambda spectral quantities, the fraction of the black body radiation. Now, let us try and look at some challenging problems for radiation heat transfer. Generally, in radiation heat transfer, there could be more than one body present. So, let me draw some cases over here and ask some questions, and those answers I will be able to give with the help of subsequent topics. So, what are those questions? Let us assume there is a body over here, it is a flat plate. Okay. Its area is known, its temperature is known to me. Let me put some quick numbers over here. So, it is of the order of centimeters, that is why area is very small, temperature I am assuming is high. Then I put an identical quantity over here, little bit smaller, another plate. So, this I am calling as body 1, this is body 2. Its area is, let us say, half of the previous area. Now, both bodies are black body. So, first one is going to emit uniformly in all directions. I know the distance between them as well, and as the radiation heat transfer engineer, I am interested in figuring out this value of Q dot. So, this I am saying something like this. So, what is the amount of radiation which is leaving the bottom surface and then striking the top surface, which means let us say the bottom surface, because it is at high temperature 1000 Kelvin, it is producing heating for about 200 watt. Let us say it is producing 200 watt. I can do that calculation, I have not done it, but using the sigma and area value I can calculate. So, I am just giving some rough value. Let us say it is 200 watt. How much of that is actually hitting the top surface, that I want over here, I will put it as a question mark over here. Now, how will I solve it? Because this is a tricky question. this area is big, the top area is small, it is separated by a distance, let us say about 1 feet. So, I will put over here 30 centimeters, both are 30 centimeters apart, small body over here. It looks like lot of this energy will not hit the body number 2. From body number 1, lot of it is going in all that direction over there, only very little will go over there. So, how do we quantify from little and more exact numbers, how do we quantify? Now, let me make it little bit more tougher. How will I make it tougher? I double the distance between them. So, everything else remain the same. Area 1 is same as earlier, area 2 was also same, but I make them at larger distance, I keep them at larger distance. So, I make this as 2D. So, earlier it was 30 centimeter, now it has become 60 centimeter. Over here temperature area is same, but what will be the value of Q dot 1 2, which means the amount of heat which is emitted by body 1 which strikes body 2. I will make it more complicated. So, these I am calling as some cases. So, this was case A at the top, this is case B. Now, I will call case C. Case C is very funny. How? Because then the body is tilted now. So, let me draw it like this. Body 1 is same as earlier. So, this is still body 1, area 1, but something happened to area 2. Instead of remaining flat as earlier, it has become tilted little bit. And these things can happen. When we were kids, we used to have old type of antenna. So, antenna is kind of a receiver. So, it is receiving electromagnetic radiation, not exactly this kind of a problem, but if it becomes tilted, the amount of radiation which will hit it, will it become larger or smaller? So, earlier it was going like this, the top surface was also flat, but now what has happened? Top surface is tilted, and I can immediately tell student, if the tilt was very large, had it become vertical, then 0 radiation will go from the bottom surface to the top surface, isn't it? But now, because tilt is little bit less, so it will reduce. So, over here I also want to calculate the value of Q dot 1 2. Very interesting. Then another complication I can add over here. I am making from the simplest case which we have studied till now, simply emission, simply spectral emission. Now, we want to take how much is emitted which hits the other body, then we want to keep that body difference distance, then we will tilt it, then we will even move it from the vertical. I will keep it little bit here. What do I mean by that? Let me draw it like this. Instead of that body being here, on this particular semicircle, it has moved little bit here. So, it could be like a satellite, or maybe I will put it over here, like a satellite which is revolving around the earth. So, there the body direction has also changed, it has tilted in some particular direction, it has gone like that. So, now distance even though it is same, but it is not on the normal. So, some sort of angle has come over here. So, distance is same, but still I want to find out Q dot 1 2. So, all these 4 cases I will put question marks over here, question mark, question mark. So, as engineers we should be able to figure out in each of these cases, and I am telling the students very soon we will figure out those equations and relationships which will help us understand that what happens when the objects are in different orientation, different distance, different zenith angles, different polar angles. We will define all those things. So, this is the motivation behind studying the further concepts in this particular direction, and in order to solve these 4 type of problems, we have to introduce new concepts that we have not studied till now in this chapter. First is the concept of solid angle. So, this I will revise a little bit, and second is the concept of radiation intensity. This is radiation intensity I. So, what I mean by each one of them I will explain in just a little while. First, let me go ahead and look at the concept of solid angles. Before I look at solid angle, very quickly I will look at the normal angles in 2 dimensions. I think this thing we all remember. So, if you have a circle over here, this angle I can draw over here. So, I can clearly see 90 degrees the angle over here. So, this one I can write for the whole circle. If I have to calculate this angle, so in degrees I will say this whole thing is 360 degree, or it is equal to 2 pi. So, I can write it in radians also and in degree also. Based on this particular relationship, I can write the circumference for this particular area as well. So, if I know the radius is r, I can write circumference is simply 2 pi r. So, these are all things we have studied in geometry in school. So, let us make it little complicated now. I know this particular arc length as dl, this area is d alpha, my radius remains r. So, is there a relationship I can find the value of d alpha? So, it so turns out, so d alpha is simply dl by r, which means if I want to figure out this particular arc length which is shown in red color over here, I can directly correlate it with the simple angle over here. These usually we give in radians, this is the unit, and both these are in meters over here. So, this is also meter, this is also meter, and I think the whole circumference we get something like this 2 pi r. So, this I think angle part is clear to everyone. Now, let me move on to solid angle. So, the same thing which happens in a circle, I want to show now what happens in a sphere. Can sphere also have an angle? So, the way I will look at it is, I will draw it in this way. I will put some axis over here, and let us say I want to draw like this. So, I am going to draw a sphere. I hope my drawing is okay, everybody is able to see what I am trying to draw over here. So, there is north pole of the sphere, south pole over here, and just like we have looked at this particular case, I will highlight it in yellow color over here. And what was this case? We took a small arc length dl over here and we tried to correlate it with the radius. In the sphere, what we are going to do? We will discretize this sphere in very small area. Maybe I will mark it in this color over here. If I put this small area over here on the surface, it is kind of like if I take this is a big sphere, not a circle, like this, and there is a small area over here, and I call this small area as ds. I will not write it there, I will write it here. This is area ds. How much solid angle does it subtend at its center? So, that is what I am trying to do. So, just give me a minute, I want to draw it nicely so that students are able to understand. So, I will draw from the poles. So, if this is our planet Earth and I would take a globe, so what I am drawing right now are longitudes over here, but this is not Earth, this is simply a sphere, but just for convenience I am showing that it can be done for that one as well. So, what I have done is I have drawn two longitudes very close to one another in blue color. Now, I will use green over here, and what I want to do is draw a circle having center here, which passes through these two lines. So, let me see if I can draw it nicely or not, something like that. So, it cuts over here, okay. And what I will do is make another of that circle. So, maybe I will use red color, and I have this particular area now. So, this area is a very small surface having the area ds, which sits on top of the sphere. So, if I have a globe in my hand, so I have put a small ink dot on that particular globe, very small, maybe a square shaped ink dot like we have shown over here. So, this thing, how much solid angle does it subtend at the center, at the origin O over here? Just as analogy, this particular red arc was subtending at the origin O over here. Okay. So, this one in the green color I have able to show. Let me draw the same thing with the green color over here also, or maybe I will pick orange. So, what I am going to do is, this is small squarish type region, right. It is kind of like this. This is the region, I will write it as P, Q, R, S. So, this is a zoom in of this particular square over here. So, what I will do is connect all the four with the origin, the fourth one also over there. And this particular zone over here, this is a solid angle, and I will call it as d omega. This whole thing is a solid angle, and the normal angle we were writing as alpha, and the solid angle we will write as omega. Because it is very small, I will write it as d omega. So, I hope the concept of solid angle is clear to students. It is the angle which is subtended by a particular area, which is why are we using the concept of sphere? Because sphere is equidistant, radius r from all the its surface is equidistant in all direction from the center. So, if let us say I am sitting in the center and that particular area which I am looking at is at the radius of that particular sphere on the surface of that particular sphere. So, what solid angle is it subtending to me or to my eye when I am standing at the origin? So, there must be some solid angle, and that I am writing as d omega over here. And what we will figure out in very soon is d omega is simply just like this relation over here. So, here it was dl by r, here it was the arc length by r, here it will become the surface differential surface by r square. And the units for this solid angle I will write on top left over here, it is given as stir radian. And in short form we can write it simply as SR, stir radian. And the angles we were measuring, I think we have written already in red over here, they are measuring in radians. So, this is kind of a cousin of radian, this is the stir radian. And one thing I have written, I think here I have written in orange earlier, that for a full circle, how many radians are inside this circle? So, we can say 2 pi radians are inside this circle. Inside it means that the full circle, if we rotate it the full, then we are seeing 2 pi radians over here. So, the same question we will ask is how many solid angles are there inside the full sphere, and we will do that calculation very soon. So, that solid angle for the whole sphere will turn out to be 4 pi, which means in case of the circle it was 2 pi radians, that was the full answer. The full answer over here will be 4 pi stir radian. So, inside the full sphere it is 4 pi stir radian. Inside half a sphere, let us say hemisphere, how many radians will be there? Stir radians, it will just be half. So, 2 pi stir radian, I will write it in short form SR. Same thing I can ask for a semicircle. Semicircle, how many angles are there inside it? So, pi radians, that is the angle inside over there. So, we will figure out, I think this thing is easy to figure out, we will just integrating over here. How are we going to integrate it for the sphere? Let us try and do from the next slide. So, we will go over here. So, how do we know that for the sphere the answer is 4 pi star radian? So, in order to answer that, I will ask the students to show to me that for a circle, how do we know it is 2 pi? So, let us take that integral analysis and do it very quickly. So, what I am going to do is I am going to assume I do not know that this is r, this is over here and this is d alpha, right. So, this circumference I want to calculate in terms of area, which means I will write circumference is simply dl and I want to integrate from 0 to 2 pi. And what I get over here is 2 pi r. So, I have done it the other way round, I have assumed that it is 2 pi, then I have figured out how much is that particular circumference. So, in the case of solid angles, I will do the same analysis, but over here what I have to do is, in order to define the solid angle, I will go back to that particular diagram over here, and here I will define 2 more angles which are the normal angle, they are not solid angle. One is going to be theta and one is going to be phi. Okay. So, let me go to a fresh slide over here, and theta we will call as the azimuth zenith angle, and it will go from 0 to pi, that will be its limit, and for phi we will call as this is the azimuth angle. and its value will go from 0 to 2 pi. So, in order to understand that, I will have to redraw that particular case over here. Maybe I can show it here itself. Let me try and see if I can do that. So, what do we mean by zenith angle theta? Zenith angle actually goes from the vertical to down. So, what we are showing over here is that anything that I draw with respect to this particular point is my zenith angle theta over there. How does this polar angle or the azimuth angle go? This is the azimuth angle. So, this is going from the x axis. Over here, if I draw the projection of this particular point over here, that is the projection, then I can show over here this is the polar angle or the azimuth angle. So, naturally this theta can go from the top to the bottom over here, which means theta will be limited between 0 to pi, or in degrees we can say between 0 and 180 degree. And what about phi? It can rotate in the whole circle. So, it will start with 0, it can make the full 2 pi. So, we can say this phi will go from 0 to 2 pi or from 0 to 360 degrees. Okay. Now, what we are going to do is calculate this particular expression in terms of the two angles theta and phi. How do I do that? The trick will be behind calculating this particular area. So, how do I do that? For that I have to draw a zoomed in version. So, I will perhaps choose a new slide over here, and what I am going to do is and draw the zoomed in version over here. So, this is x, this is y, this is z over here. Okay. And what I am going to do is from here, let me draw the two polar points over here. And this is my equal distance over here. This is the one polar part and this is the second polar part. And it will become clear in just a minute, and I take this distance over here, and then I am going to draw a circle over here. So, that circle will look something like this. Not very good I have drawn, but I think point will become clear very soon. So, I will make this red over here, then this is red over here. So, this will be my circle that I will call P, Q, R, S, and I want to find out its area. So, let me say the area of this thing is ds. What can I write it in terms of? Do not worry, I will make it very simple, students will be able to figure out over here. If I have a square or a rectangle over here, P, Q, R, S, it will not be a square, it will be actually a rectangle. So, one side will have the length A1 and the other side will have the length A2. What I am trying to figure out over here, that what is the value of A1 and A2 and how do I know about it? I am going to join the whole thing to the center, which means all these lengths are actually radius r over here, all these green lines. How do I know that all are r? Because all these points are sitting on the top of the surface of the sphere. So, anything which is on top of the globe or on top of the surface of the sphere, just like all human beings are living on the surface of earth. So, we are all equidistant at r length r from the center of the earth. It is just like saying over here. So, all these distances are r, whether it is a sphere or a circle. That is why I can write all these green lines, they are equal to r distance. Now comes the interesting part. If this is r and this is my blue circle over here, blue circle is different, the sphere is different. Okay. Now, I can join this line and this line over here, and I can say by definition, earlier we have defined this angle has to be the zenith angle. Why is that equal to theta? This is our definition. Let us go back. You see over here, theta is given like this. From the vertical, from the north pole, we are defining the theta. So, north pole is over here. Let us say this is north pole of our sphere. So, this is theta, isn't it clear? Okay, good. If this is r if this length is r, the green length, and this angle is 90 degree, it is a right angle triangle, then what is the length of this blue line over here? Then I know the length of this blue line also, this becomes r sin theta, right. And that will give me this particular slice, which I will calculate very easily. How will that give me? Let me draw another circle over here. Maybe which color should I use? I will use orange. I have not used orange. That now I am seeing the projection of this thing on the over here. There's another. This is the equator which I am drawing for my sphere. Now, when this thing touches over here, so if this is point over here, yeah, this one, this is the equatorial point, I can write this distance, this orange distance, how much is this? This is also r, exactly. This is also r, because all these surfaces are on the surface of the sphere. Now, let us try and define phi. What will be this angle? This will be exactly phi. How do I know this is the polar or the azimuth angle phi? This is how we have defined it. And what is this particular thing? This is the slice of phi, which means this is small d phi over here. So, now we can come to this particular area rectangle over here and clearly write two things. The first thing that I can write is that this particular length A1, how much is it equal to? How will I know the answer? I can look at the blue circle over here. If this blue circle on top, I will draw again. So, this is the blue circle over here having the radius r sin theta, and that particular angle over here is how much? This angle is d phi. So, what is this length over here? I will show it in red. This is the value of A1 that I am looking for, and this is the same value A1 over here. Now, since I have drawn it in this way, I can immediately write. Now, I know the value of A1. How much? Radius. Radius is r sin theta into angle. Angle is d phi. This is equation number 1. Okay. How much is A2? Similarly, I can get from here. Let me write over here. What is this particular angle? This angle, how much it is? If this is phi, theta, this has to be the d theta, small. Why? Because if this was phi, this was d phi. Now, again I know the circle over here. How am I drawing it like this? This is the circle, this angle is d theta, radius is r, and this arc I will show as red color over here. This arc is what? A2. A2. Then again I know the value of A2. How? I will write A2 is simply this radius into the angle. So, this is my equation number 2. Now, I come back to the shaded rectangle over here. Please pay attention to students. We have gone through this long exercise. It has taken 5-6 minutes. Why? I just wanted to show with different colors and the details for that thing, that even though geometry can be complicated, but if we are talking for differential element, we can talk in terms of surfaces being rectangle or square. And now, we have looked at this rectangle having side A1 and side A2. Those A1, A2 we know, which means that I know the area of that particular rectangle. Now, I am very excited. The area turns out to be ds is simply, you remember this was ds, look over here. So, I will write it here itself. ds is simply A1 into A2. What is A1? A1 comes from here. It is sin r sin theta into d phi. Okay, I put a product sign over there. Then I want to write A2. A2 was r d theta. So simple it has turned out to be, which means I can write final expression that ds is simply r into r square sin theta d theta d phi. This is very powerful equation. Please remember this one. You do not have to memorize, but if you remember this sphere over here, the technique of drawing 2 or 3 circles using colors different, and then definition of theta, definition of phi, then we can always, even if we forget this equation, we can always recreate it once again. So, this blue star equation over here, and then we go back 2 slides. Let me put a purple star over here. So, this purple star equation and blue star, is there a way I can equate them? Answer is yes. Let me write on a fresh slide both of them. So, purple star equation was what? Definition of solid angle, surface divided by radius square. This is equation number 1. And ds we have calculated. You remember r square, what was that? Sin theta d theta d phi. This was equation number 2. So, let me put substitute 2 into 1. Can I do that? And then I will calculate the value of d omega, simply turns out to be sin theta d theta d phi. This is the equation which gives by definition the value of d omega. Now, I have very small slice of this particular sphere over here. This thing is subtending the angle, this angle is d omega. How do I convert it for the whole sphere? I will just integrate, which means on next page I will write omega for the whole sphere is what? It is simply integrating d omega, full integral, and instead of integrating d omega, let me plug in these 2 angles over here because they are equal. So, I will say it is integration of sin theta d theta d phi, but because we have 2 variables over here, we have double integral, right? We are integrating with d theta also and d phi also. I must have 2 integration signs, which means I will put a second integration sign also. So, first I will integrate with phi, then I will integrate with theta. How am I integrating with phi? Phi is going from 0 to where? Let us go back. This phi will start from here, it will go all around, come back over here. We are on the equator, we have travelled 360 degree, which means phi goes from 0 to 2 pi. Clear? Let us go to theta. Theta starts from north pole, it will end at south pole over. It will not go back to north pole, please remember. Once it has come to south pole, it will remain over there, which means we are going from theta equals to 0 to 180 degree, or I will write 0 to pi. It took a long time, but we will get very exciting result. How much it will come out to be? D phi I can take out, I get simply 2 pi, and there is only one integral remaining. Theta goes from 0 to theta goes to pi. Sin theta d theta. So, its sin theta integral is cos theta. So, I will just write over here, I think it is minus cos theta from 0 to pi, and it will turn out to be both are value 1, 1 is 1 and 1 is minus 1, add it together we will get a factor of 2. So, whole thing turns out to be omega sphere is 4 pi. That is the answer we got after long exercise, but isn't it satisfying? Star radian. It is satisfying because we started with simple, make very complicated diagram we have to make over here. Then we again write the mathematical equation, become simple again, and finally we get simple answer that for the whole sphere if we integrate we get 4 pi. So, one time we have to do this long exercise, then we can do things very quickly with the help of this blue star equation over here. So, just or maybe I will put another star over here, this red star. This is also very powerful equation. This gives the definition of the differential solid angle over here. Now, once I know the solid angle for sphere, can I calculate for hemisphere? It will just be half. Hemisphere, it will simply be for the sphere divided by 2. So, it will be 2 pi star radian. So, why are we doing all these exercise after all? So, the answer will be why are we doing it? Because we have to solve these problems, these challenges I have given earlier. So, I have talked about these 4 cases and we have put 4 question marks over there. So, we have to find solution for all these question marks. But students may ask, sir, where is the solid angle over here? Now, we can see very clearly this is a solid angle over here, this is a solid angle over here, and then third one solid angle over here. Fourth one solid angle over here. So, in radiation heat transfer, all objects which are distance from one another, because unlike in conduction, if you put copper and wood together, radiation will not dominate because they are close to one another. Conduction may dominate at lower temperatures. But if you increase the temperature, put them very far distance apart, then the only mode is that radiation will dominate over there, conduction, convection very close to 0, especially if the vacuum is there in between. Now, when they are very far apart, then we have to view all these objects as solid angles. One very good example is, if I go outside in the evening, I see very beautiful sun, I can even calculate the solid angle of sun, which means during lunch time I cannot look at the sun directly, it is very bright, but in the evening if I am on the horizon over here and I am a person like this and the sun is setting over here, can I not calculate this solid angle? So, I can figure out this solid angle over here and it is simply d omega. So, let me calculate d omega value for sun, how much value it will turn out to be, and this is very quickly we can do it. Why? Because we can write the first expression for d omega. Let us go back. What was the first expression for d omega? Solid angle definition. Let me put it in yellow color so that student will, this is a very important and very strong definition. It is simply the differential element divided by r square. So, I go back over here, I am standing in evening and I want to calculate this value. It is simply surface area, which is the differential surface area, I am shading it over here, sun divided by r square. So, what it is telling me is, if I can read all the figure over here, that sun is over there, it appears to me as a disk. So, if I know the radius of sun r naught, so what is the value of ds over here? It will be simply the disk surface area, because the sun appears to me like a disk, it is appearing like a circle with some radius r naught. I will put that thing over here, and what is this denominator? Denominator is the radius of that circle if I am standing here on earth. In reality, earth is rotating around the sun, but just for the sake of relative motion. So, this particular radius that I am looking at. So, this one I am writing as, maybe I will write it as capital R, or I will write the RS. So, this is RS square. So, this is the expression that can help me get that value. All I need to do is turn a little bit of mathematics around, and these values I can obtain for pi, for radius of sun. So, I think I obtained it from some reference over here. So, sun radius approximately is about 7 lakh kilometers. So, one way of remembering it is that maybe light will take almost 2 seconds or little bit more than 2 seconds to cross the sun radius, and distance between earth and sun I think is about 150 million kilometers, that I convert into meters over here, and then we square it, because we have r square. So, we need a calculator to do all those things, but final answer, if my calculation is correct, is about 6.8 into 10 power minus 5 star radians. So, this is the omega of actual sun if we go out in the evening when we are viewing the sun directly with our naked eye. So, just see, is this value big or is it small? So, extremely small value it is there, and to just to give an idea, we can actually move our head around, and when we are turning in this way, I can move around for 2 pi angles, right. I can move it around in 360 degree, which means the angle that I am changing over here is phi. So, if you go back 2 slides, so if I am rotating my neck in this direction, I am actually changing phi. So, if this is the origin I keep 0, then if I move by 90 degree over here, so phi has changed to 90 degree, then I go back here 180 degree, I turn around over here 270, come back 360 degree or 2 pi. Then theta, if I am looking up and down, then if I start from top, maybe that theta is 0, then I am looking horizontal 90 degree, I look bottom 180 degree, which means theta goes from 0 to pi. Phi goes all around 0 to 2 pi, theta goes from 0 to pi. I integrate the whole thing. So, these two angles were in radians. I integrate the whole thing, get in solid angle, that will be in star radian. And when I am lying down, I am looking above, I will see a hemisphere. So, when we are looking around, we kind of see a hemisphere over here. So, that hemispherical we can see in all directions over here. So, if there is a star or a bird, I can see here, here, here and here, not perfectly, but very close to that. So, that whole hemisphere will have the solid angle 2 pi, and this is the star radian, and this is very close to about 6.3 star radian. Okay, that is the whole hemisphere, and out of that sun is occupying a small spot over here, or maybe in the evening, because I am talking about it will be little bit low over here, and that small d omega turns out to be 6.8 into 10 to the power minus 5 star radian. So, just compare these two numbers, there is a huge difference. That is why when we will calculate for stars at night time, it will turn out to be even less, because stars maybe they are equivalent to size of sun. So, their radius is equivalent, but the distance that they are further away, it is not just 150 million kilometer, it could be 100 or 1000 times. So, we can look at some astronomy book and look at some references. So, they will so their solid angles will be even very small. So, very difficult to see it with naked eye. Same thing with planets, and those are just the steps I have explained over here. So, with this information, next time when we meet, we will be able to actually solve with additional definition of radiation intensity. This I is very important parameter, radiation intensity I, and then with the help of the solid angle concept and the radiation intensity, we will be able to solve very interesting problems very nicely. So, until we meet time, I thank all the students. Thank you.